Welcome to my podcast. I'm Jennifer, founder of Stile AI Solutions, and we're here to help businesses grow smarter and faster using AI-powered solutions. Today, I'm joined by Lisa Ruland, founder of Unpeeled Journal, a gorgeous website and blog dedicated to cooking, baking, and great recipes. We'll be diving into Lisa's journey, the opportunities and challenges in today's food and publishing industries, and how websites like Lisa's are navigating growth in an increasingly competitive landscape. So thank you, Lisa, for joining us today. Could you start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your website and food blog?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here. And I think this is such an exciting topic and just talking about the integration of a business with AI and just all the different trends that are happening, especially in the food space. So, by way of background, originally career wise, an attorney, I was a prosecutor in New York and realized that that was not my true love. In fact, it has always been food. So I made a big career transition and took myself to pastry school at the CIA, the culinary one, of course. And after that, worked as a professional pastry chef before becoming a professional food writer, an editor in New York City. I moved to Washington, D.C. And in the capacity of switching over from full time staff writer to freelance writer for food, I also started my own website, and that is Unpeeled Journal. So I've had that for about 5.5 years now, and it has been a really great journey. But like any meaningful business, a learning experience and hard work as well.
What inspired you to start this blog?
So I wanted to kind of do my own thing because as a food writer, you are kind of at the mercy of whatever the editor likes and doesn't like. So you would pitch articles, like how it would work is you pitch articles to a magazine or a newspaper and you're real excited about them. You think it's a great topic, you know exactly how you write it. And then the editor says, Not for me." And then this great idea has nowhere to go. The nice thing about having your own website or having my own website is that I can be my own writer and my own editor. Of course, along with that, comes a lot of added responsibility because I'm also now running my own business. That has been a huge learning curve for me and continues to be. Sure. So I think a lot of people who might start their own company do it because they have this kernel of passion for one particular thing. In my case, it's food writing and cooking and recipe development. But when you realize when you start your own business, there needs to be a whole sec separate to-do list other than the writing that is part of supporting that interest of yours. So I had to learn, for example, about how a website works, how to build a website, how to hire the right people to help build it for you. You have to learn about search engine optimization. I had to learn about, gosh, social media, which I was previously not on at all, so just how to do that. Intuit QuickBooks, like just a lot of nitty-gritty from financing. I just trademarked my name, Unpeeled Journal. So that was a whole other thing. And as a former attorney, I did it myself. But even that, I'm not a patent or trademark attorney. So I had to learn that. So there's just so many things involved in a business
Yeah.
that I had to really become my own student.
Who is your customer as a website and a blog?
So my demographic, my core audience is avid home cook who wants something a little elevated, but not anything too fussy or difficult. So it's kind of finding that nice sweet spot between realistic, but a little aspirational, real world, but elegant in a way. So
Okay.
yeah, and it's not it's actually I do get a lot of men, but it's predominantly females
Okay.
and between the ages of 35 to 75, actually, which is broad. And I will say I had to learn Google Analytics as well. And that is, you have to have Google Analytics to do what I do because it really tells you everything you want to know about your web traffic.
Absolutely. And it can be so overwhelming and daunting to like take all that on.
Oh, yeah.
Did you grow your following?
How did I would say a several pronged approach. One was using my network, and I was lucky to have some contacts already in the industry. But that said, I also just went out and forged my own through networking that I didn't know yet and had people in that sphere do things like mention my website with their people. I had a very well-known food blog do a couple of my recipes and gave me a shout out there and in their newsletter, which drew traffic as well. I also really dug into search engine optimization, again, SEO, and that is just web clicks. So that's a huge thing because you want Google to rank you on page 1. Because you
Right.
think about it, how many times do we ever go to page 2 of Google or page
Right.
3 of Google? So you have to try to appear on page 1. And in my sphere, it's less about having my website on page 1 and as opposed to individual recipes. Like if someone were to Google apple pie recipe, you want your recipe to be on page 1 ideally. I am too small to ever rank on page 1 for something that broad, but you can find a niche that does work for a recipe that does get traffic that you can rank for. What's interesting now, however, is that we're at this very interesting intersection because in as much as everyone has been trying to get on page 1 of Google with AI and Chat GPT and other AI models, what will happen now when people are bypassing traditional web searches altogether and just typing their searches into an AI platform. But I'm so happy that I've been able to build my community and continue to grow it. And I really get a lot of fulfillment from it. That I try to touch different aspects of food, be it an interview with an interesting woman in food. Just as a preview, I have some upcoming interviews. One is the former chief food scientist at NASA, who was so interesting to talk to. Another is
Wow.
the food historian at the Smithsonian American History Museum who just moved over to the Library of Congress, actually. So she's a librarian of Congress and she's a food historian. So that's just so meaningful. But yeah, I'll do like a dining guide to a specific city. It's primarily recipes, but I like to fill it in with other food uh, related aspects too.
That's super exciting. So, what would you say is kind of perhaps a recent win or milestone
Mm.
that made you proud?
Well, I was asked to speak back in April at a women's food writing conference and in Nashville, which was both really fun because Nashville, but also,
Sure.
really inspiring as well to just meet a lot of other people. And I talked actually about building a following and how to do that. And I loved meeting a lot of women who share a similar passion for this and just kind of don't know where to we're like just like me at one point, like didn't really know where to start.
Sure.
So
That's
that felt like
amazing.
a really big win just to be able to share what I have learned and tell them my mistakes so they don't have to make them. So yeah, I like that. And I also recently started ranking on page that all important page 1 ranking for a couple recipes. So it's been driving some nice traffic my way. So you never
That's
really know though what Google is looking for. It's like a big mystery. So
that
you
was going to be my follow-up question. What was the magic bullet that made that
mm,
happen?
I don't know, but I did. So for some reason, Google just decided that they'll do they're called core updates, and they'll do them maybe 4 times a year or something. And they just decide whether they like your website and they think it's authoritative spiders and they crawl your website and they crawl all your content and they decide if it meets that EEAT. And I have been having some website work done, and I think maybe I updated my bio to include more authority, with my background and all. You never really know though ultimately.
Sure, it's a lot of trial and
Yeah.
error
You just
for
have to do
sure.
your best and research on what people think Google's looking for and go
Sure.
from there. And you constantly have to like keep putting in new content and updating old because you have to seem fresh and relevant.
Absolutely.
Updating old recipes.
So, you put your heart and soul into this, so much work between the recipes and maintaining the website and the profiles and the food guides. What's one of your biggest challenges to monetize all this?
Yeah, that is a great question. Monetization is tricky. I think the biggest challenge is kind of what's on the horizon, and that is the decrease in traditional web search and the increase in AI large scale models that people will turn to instead. Whereas before, and also now, people still, of course, do plenty of web searches. If you wanted to find out what is the weather today on the online. You would have to type that into Google and then click on a link, maybe to the weather channel, maybe to your local news or whatever. And now you're on a website. And now that website has advertisements on it and they're making money because you clicked onto that website. It's the same for me. So if people Google chicken pot pie recipe and they then click through to my website and they're now on my website, they're seeing advertisements on my website. I am now making money because they are seeing my ad. So now what happens if people no longer need to click onto a website to find that information? They can just type it into a large language model and not go to a website at all. Like chat just spits an answer back out at them. I think that's recipes are actually not the best place to use chat right now because it pulls weird things and
Sure.
is not that trustworthy. But I anticipate that one day it will be. And the question is, what happens now? Are we just like our website's just going to become trees falling in the forest and no one's there to listen kind of thing? Ultimately, I do think there is always a place for a good product, for a meaningful product, one that builds a sense of community and empowerment of others. But the fact is, I do think some traffic will be lost. Well, it's a really interesting time because this is a question of first impression for everyone, right? Like
Hmm.
we are just like how the dawn of the internet in mainstream use, we are at the dawn of AI in mainstream use. So there's
Sure.
no roadmap. The roadmap is being built in real time by us every day and every week, and it's moving fast. So, what I am trying to do and what I have the power to do is try to shore up my existing content and double down on community and outreach that doesn't involve just web search. So, doing that networking, trying to coordinate with other people on their channels and just to create an ecosystem for people to find me that is not exclusive to a web search. Topic that is kind of very buzzy right now is whether creators, because there is an option for websites and creators to block AI
Mm.
crawlers, they're called, from reading their content. The idea being, I don't want you to steal the stuff that I've worked so hard to build and then
Yeah.
just like spit it out to people and I never see any benefit of that at all. And I see that. However, the debate is, but if people are going on to Chat GPT and asking for a recipe or whatever it is, if you block that channel from pulling from your website, you're also blocking AI from linking because you
Mm.
can like ask, can you send me the link or can you tell me where that's from? So it can actually be used as a channel back to your website. It's just a double-edged sword. That's what it comes down to.
Has your audience behavior changed at all, or kind of what trends are you maybe seeing?
Yeah, so it's very, I would say, everyone has seasonal ups and downs. The way it works for me, and I think this is true of a lot of websites, is that there's that all important Q4, that fourth quarter, especially in a food sphere because it's the holidays, right? It's between October and December, the fourth quarter of the year. That's when it's the most high traffic visits to a food website such
Yeah.
as mine. It's also when advertisers pay the most. And advertising money is measured in what's called RPMs. It's revenue per meal. And so for every 1,000 visitors, that's how they kind of benchmark what you get paid. So you get paid higher rates and there's more traffic. So fourth quarter of the year is always very important. And then things kind of reset in January when no one's really cooking. Everyone's just kind of, hunkered down in winter or whatever. And then
Hmm.
advertising revenue resets, and then it'll build throughout the year.
Okay. Do you keep or maintain a consistent flow of advertisers throughout the year? Does that ebb and flow for you?
Yes. So one thing that I would recommend, and I never really knew this initially, I thought I had to like go out and approach companies and say like, "Do you want an ad on my website?" No. Once you get to a certain amount of web traffic, you can then go to a company there are companies that will take care of ad placement for you. So they take a cut of the earnings, and then they will integrate ads right on your site. And so Raptive is the name of the company that I work with. Another one in the food sphere that's big is Mediavine, and you can get on. You can become a partner, I think, with maybe starting around 30, 40, or 50,000 visitors a month, but I'm not positive about that. But it's not like you have to wait until you have this massive number of visitors a month to start monetizing.
What would you say, like right now, what's working really well for you right now? And then on the flip side, what's maybe not working so well for you?
Yeah. So I will say one thing that I'm really enjoying is I have a weekly newsletter that I transitioned onto Substack from another platform. So Substack has been really interesting because I have found that in order to rank on Google, it doesn't really want you to talk about the history of how you discovered this recipe when you were on vacation in New Mexico and you met this like little old lady. Like, they don't, it's lovely, but they don't care. Google doesn't care because they know that a reader hasn't come to that recipe to learn that. They've come to learn how long does it take to cook, what ingredients are in it, how do I make it, here's some pictures so I know what it looks like, the end. So I've
Mm,
kind of had to become quite dry in revising my recipes to become more what Google wants. But that left
mm,
kind of like an empty hole in my heart where it just felt impersonal and rote. So the newsletter is kind of where I've been speaking just a little more, personally and working on that. So I'm trying to also monetize on Substack as well. So I now have a paid subscription model. You get the newsletter for free with weekly recipes and a couple other things, but then I have a paywall and I have other content behind the paywall. So that has been a lot of a trial and error. And I'm always surprised at which type of content that I think is like awesome. No one gets a paid subscription that week, but then other times I'll get like multiple signups for a paid subscription. I would encourage anyone who has a website or a business to have a newsletter because it's a really nice way of keeping yourself in front of people. It goes right to their inbox, which is a very kind of personal, meaningful place to be, and it drives traffic back to your website. So the day I send out my newsletter, I get a lot of extra traffic because people are clicking through. So it's a really nice way to build your web community. So my website traffic continues to grow, my newsletter signups continue to grow, but they're not growing internally. In other words, they're Substack. People aren't finding me on Substack.
mm,
They're finding me on the internet, on my website, and then signing up for my newsletter from my website, which
sure.
happens to be sent every week through Substack. It is very hard to get discovered on Substack right now. So that's why I am a big fan of having your own website because I think you have more control over it. But all these things work together. It's truly an ecosystem, just like how a social media platform also can help support your website, and a website can help support your social media platform, and so on. You kind of want to have kind of think like an octopus and have tentacles in different places. It's that analogy, or the not all your eggs in one basket analogy would be another.
Sure. Okay. So if you were to look 6 to 12 months down the road, where do you want your business to be?
Bigger, better, I really want to leverage. This is the other thing. I mean, I think as much as people are talking how AI is going to kill everything and everyone and just be really bad and no one's going to go to websites anymore, the fact is it is a really important tool. My company, while successful and profitable, is still a very small business. So I can't necessarily hire experts all the time to tell me everything I should do. So I personally am interested in using AI to as an educator and as a tool to help me, up my growth and teach me what I don't know.
Okay. So if you had this AI tool, what would you hope it could do for you?
One, and I realize this is kind of niche to my website, but
Sure.
updating individual recipes to be more attractive to Google search. That's a big one. So, we're all supposed to update our recipes every year so they keep fresh. But it's like, well, what does that mean? What is not great about this existing way I've written it that could be better? and that comes down to headings and, your paragraphs, and should this be a bullet point? Do I need FAQs? So I have started asking chat for help with that. We'll see how it goes, but that's been helpful. Also, just generally, I would love to know um, just seasonal opportunities for, I don't know, what are people searching for in 2 months? Because this is something where I have to be updating my Christmas content in September, kind of thing,
Mm.
because
Mhm.
it takes a while to surface. So asking questions like, what are food trends for spring 2026 or something like that? That's really important to know what people are going to be searching for, cooking, what's buzzy. Yeah,
Like a
there's a lot
research
there.
assistant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm. What would you say is one lesson you've learned on your journey that you wish you knew earlier?
I wish I had started writing for search engine optimization SEO earlier. I did not realize how getting something to surface on Google search is really its own skill. I
Mm.
just kind of thought I would start putting stuff on the internet and there it would be. And it, no. So you really do have to write in a way that Google wants you to. And I know it's kinda like ick if you wanna be, like, very creative or an iconoclast or something like that, but it's the game somewhat.
Mhm.
And again, I
Yeah,
think it's important to find your way of making it you have to make a way to make it personal and valuable to you, but you also need to be making sure that it's getting seen.
of
So I
course.
wish I had learned more about keywords and how to find a good way to rank for something a lot earlier. Yeah. That's definitely a major one. So I would say become familiar with keywords. There's a website called Key Search, and you can type in certain words and see how competitive it is. And there's plenty of courses you can take online about this. I know what I would do. Figuring out which recipe posts to update when. That is a big one. I have over 420 recipes on my website, and it's a lot to try to keep them all fresh, and I am way behind on updating them. Some of them have never been updated, and they're just kind of like 4 years old and getting 0 traffic. So, sometimes I feel like I'm just sitting kind of like on a mountain of content that's doing nothing, and I wanna leverage it. But there's a method to the madness.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for meeting with me today. This has been so enlightening and enjoyable. Where can people find you or connect with you online?
Sure. Thank you. First of all, I just want to say thank you for this conversation. This has been great for me. I'm so excited to be here. You can find me on my website online at unpeeledjournal.com or on Instagram and Pinterest at the same Unpeeled Journal. So please check me out, sign up for my weekly newsletter, full of lots of recipes and other great stuff.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.